before the vice presidential debate tonight, I just got polling on Tim Kaine versus Mike Pence. Now, I got to remind you guys, Tim Kaine is a Democrat, Mike Pence is a Republican. People often forget, okay?
One is a marshmallow, and the other one is mayonnaise.
Jesse Ventura had a great line on Howard Stern about this. Some were saying it was a Jesse Ventura impersonator. Doesn't matter, whoever it was had a great line about this. And he said, these guys look like two jobbers. Those are the guys in the wrestling days whose job was to be like a mildly okay wrestler whose job was to lose to the better wrestlers.
But so that you can demonstrate that they're coming up through the ranks.
It's like Iron Mike Sharp or Tiger Chung Lee. Like, oh, he beat Iron Sharp. Okay, right?
The Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah, but Ventura said they accidentally put the two jobbers against each other in the undercard. No, these are the guys who are supposed to lose. They're like, oh no, what are we going to do?
I mean, our only hope is that halfway through the debate, Donald Trump runs on the stage with a chair and just clubs Tim Kaine.
That would be interesting.
Or clubs Mike Pence with his back turned.
Because he doesn't even know. He's so incompetent, he doesn't know which one is which.
You see the turn in real time.
Okay, so now here's the fun part, in reality.
The fun part is that we are looking at our next president because whoever wins is going to be impeached.
Okay, so I'll get to that in a second too. So you really should care about these guys, but apparently as Americans you don't, and I don't blame you. When they asked who do you think is going to win the debate, the result was 38 to 38. They're like, it's the same guy. No, but it gets better. It gets better. When they asked people, do you view them favorably or unfavorably? The results were 38 favorable, 30 unfavorable. For both, identical. That is amazing. Exactly 38% of the country thinks whichever one is ours, I view him favorably, and I think he's going to win.
But not even that
favorably. Whichever one isn't ours, they have no idea who these two guys are. I've never seen such identical polling in my life on two different questions. Okay, so these, and it tells you a lot about the people who picked them because. Everybody thinks like, oh, you pick a bland VP. Sometimes, but no, not every time, not at all. So Lloyd Bentsen was a very smart and accomplished politician who a lot of people thought was more accomplished than Dukakis, but Dukakis had the courage to pick him and the self-confidence to pick him. Lyndon Johnson, an enormously accomplished politician who had a lot of ambition, but Kennedy had the courage and the conviction to pick him. Dick Cheney, for all you might dislike him, you got to give Bush credit because it turns out Cheney took over the job anyway. And, well, maybe that's discredit. He's like, I got to have somebody to actually do the job. You know what I'm saying? So Dick Cheney, very consequential.
Lieberman, very bold pick.
Well, I wouldn't call it bold. We were talking earlier about the Cheney-Lieberman debate. What did they debate?
What did they disagree about?
I don't know. So that was back in 2000, of course.
We should go into Iraq in the winter, not in the spring. The winter. I disagree, Dick. I say we go in the spring.
And Sarah Palin is at least a consequential VP selection. No, hey, Trump picked Pence because he's insecure and doesn't want anyone to upstage him. So he doesn't want anybody else sharing the spotlight. Donald Trump is all about the spotlight. So that's the whole point of this run. So I don't want anybody, Newt Gingrich, Chris. That's why I thought he was going to pick Ben Carson. Because the only person who could have melded into the background maybe better than Mike Pence
willingly.
was Ben Carson.
I think that's the majority of it, and that's why he didn't choose someone like Christie, who was going to be out there and be blustery and all that. But I think one of the reasons he picked Pence was because he's a combination of boring and extremely reliably conservative in a particularly religious sense.
Yes.
And there were some people who still had questions about Trump, and picking him says, especially when he reveals that guy is going to be in charge of policy, was telling Republicans around the country, no, it's going to be a Republican slate of policies that we're going to be pushing for.
That is why the Tim Kaine selection is arguably worse. Because Hillary Clinton does the same thing.
I agree.
It's all about, remember, it's all about me. Remember my initial slogan was, I'm with her. Let's not get it mixed up with about anybody else. Me. So I'm going to take milquetoast Tim Kaine that no one in the world is passionate about, and I like him because he's going to do as I tell him to do. He's not going to challenge me like an Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. Going to be a pain in my ass. I got to eat lunch with this guy every day, right? And so now why is it slightly worse than Mike Pence? Because as John pointed out, Mike Pence at least shores up a constituency.
He represented something.
Yeah, for Donald Trump. Tim Kaine shores up not a goddamn thing.
What about Virginia?
Yeah, I know. So they think that they're so smart that, oh yeah, Virginia is an important state. Really, there's people in Virginia who are passionate about Tim Kaine. Like, oh my God, Tim Kaine, man, he was a somewhat fairly competent governor, and boy, that's got me burning up to go vote for him. Like, I know. It's not like we don't know. Don't treat us like children. Old school politics is you go for swing states and you get to a former governor of a swing state. But no, the reality is, the more sophisticated way to think about it is, you've got to energize people to want to vote for you. And a progressive would have shored up your base, would have energized people and got you. But it is hubris on our part. I don't need anybody. I don't want the meddlesome progressives. I'm going to win on my own anyway.
Devil's advocate?
Yes.
I think it might be part of, I didn't read the book that they put out, The Stronger Together, but it might be part of a messaging theme thing where she always goes back to, I've been fighting for women and children for 45 years or whatever, as long as, in Trump's view, she's been fighting ISIS. And one of the first things he did in his career was go off and do missionary work in Latin and South America. So it might be the building bridges, bringing people together, fighting for those who blah, blah, blah.
I don't know what he's talking about, but
there's no.
But that is part of his personal biography.
I know, but nobody knows that and nobody cares about it.
That's why I'm saying it.
Right. So like they have this like old school politics. I have a good bio here. I have a good bio of Tim Kaine. He's an accomplished politician, and you know he will get Latinos because he was in Latin America earlier. Which Latino's like, oh man, Tim Kaine. Oh yeah, I got to get down. I got to get out to vote because of Tim Kaine. No Latino, not one in the country is motivated by that.
If you represent that Latino.
Okay, now I don't want you guys to get me wrong. Do I think Tim Kaine would be a better president than Mike Pence? By a landslide.
I assume a lot of libs would imagine that he'd be a better president than Hillary Clinton.
There's an argument to be made. But
I hear that she's the worst ever.
Right, but this
by definition.
Right, but this conversation is not about whether Mike Pence or Tim Kaine is better on the policies. That's a separate conversation. Yeah. As a political pick, I think they're both jobbers. I think they're both Iron Mike Sharp. They're both set to lose. They're both picked to do nothing but be bland. They're outblanding one another. But Tim Kaine is marginally a worse pick because he energizes no one. At least Mike Pence gets pro-lifers and other constituencies for Trump.
Yeah, and Tim Kaine
and anti-gay people.
Tim Kaine shores up the Republicans who'll never vote for Hillary vote. He's right to work. Yeah. Right to work, right there. Right to goddamn work. Right now, in this day and age, he's pro-TPP. I mean, that's why Hillary, I think, you've diagnosed the problem. There's no enthusiasm, right? It's not that everyone knows Donald Trump is garbage, but nobody can get enthused to come out to vote for her. She can't get her numbers up, and she's one of those bad politicians. The more she talks, the less people like her. So they're in a bind, and what does she do? She shoots herself in the foot and picks Tim Kaine. It's her own goddamn fault. It really is their own goddamn fault. And this is the geniuses have brought you this, and they ignored that. Not only is the Democratic Party in trouble, but capitalism globally is in trouble.
You power the Young Turks. We do this all through membership. tytnetwork.com/join. Let's build the media that we can believe in.